Is fear killing us? Hi, I'm Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. So the question of the day is fear killing us? Part 2. We're back discussing the pervasive atmosphere of fear that's causing us as a society to live in spiritual darkness. We need to break through that darkness of fear and disperse it. Get rid of it. It's time to bring in the light of love, health, and prosperity. And as we look around us, it seems that we might be in the middle of a diabolical war. And it's being powered by an overwhelming, overriding atmosphere of fear. Slowly but surely, the fear quotient is being pushed up as our lives are being permanently modified. For instance, financially, the citizens of our country are being devastated. Student loans are crippling. People are being evicted and homes are being lost in the growing mortgage crisis. People trying to buy homes are being outbid by rich financial companies that are buying them up with huge piles of cash, just buying one house after another. Homelessness is rising rapidly. The United States healthcare system is now rated as the worst among all the developed countries. The worst. Infant death rates are up. Care for elderly is questionable. The cost of medications is through the roof. And the administrative costs of healthcare are skyrocketing so that fewer people can afford access to healthcare. We even have fewer doctors per capita than any of the other developed countries. The American middle class is slowly being wiped out and leaving a big gap of inequality between the rich and the poor. The forces working against us are much too strong and too out of reach for any kind of protest to work. And the people who are supposed to be on our side, the ones we voted into office, no longer seem to be listening to us. They seem to be catering to the rich. And the major media keep pounding that drum and screaming that we're all gonna die. Please, click on the thumbs up button below, and if you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, any questions you may have. So please use the chat box on the right side of the screen or the comment section below this video. You know, far too many people have bought into this fear that seems to be permeating our society. They're becoming immobilized by the fear, and that constant drumbeat of fear has them sinking lower and lower into the darkness. So how can we break through this fear barrier that's keeping people locked into a mindset of hopelessness? Well, there's some steps. The first thing we need to realize is that fear is something that we all have. Fear is natural. Fear is hardwired into our DNA. Fear is necessary for our survival in times of danger. They call it the fight or flight syndrome. But fear is also a limiting factor that is stopping us from working towards the lives we really want to live. It doesn't have to be that way. We have the power to flip the script and conquer fear instead of letting fear conquer us. So how do you learn to effectively deal with the paralyzing effects of fear? Well, here are some steps. 1, acknowledge that you are experiencing fear. 2, identify your fear, that is, what you are afraid of. 3, sit with your fear. Don't hide from it. Sit with it. 4, remind yourself that you're not alone. Spirit is with you. Spirit is always with you. 5, recognize that fear can work for you as well as against you. 6, Use the power of your imagination. And 7, accept that there will be failures and setbacks, but they're not permanent. Okay, so those are the steps, 7 steps. So let's go through them one at a time. Okay, the first step in dealing with fear is to acknowledge that you are actually experiencing fear. Many of us deny that we're afraid. We're ashamed of being afraid. Instead, we make up excuses why we seem to be just treading water and barely keeping our heads above the surface. Fear can freeze us and our forward motion. So, fear can make us feel like we don't have a chance and that anything we might try will be hopeless, will be defeated. So the first step is to acknowledge that you are afraid. Acknowledge it. Okay, the next step, now that you've acknowledged the fact that fear may be holding you back, take a look and figure out, what is it? What is it that you're afraid of? So many of us are living in a bubble of dread. Sometimes it's a non-specific fear. It could be that we're afraid of some eventual event in the future that may or may not happen. We don't know what's coming, but we know that something terrible is coming. Our minds latch on to that possibility that something bad might happen in the future, and then it goes into that feedback loop that keeps feeding itself and has us worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. We've got to stop that. This is called anxiety. It's also called chronic stress, and it can burn you out. So think about it. Chronic stress, anxiety are non-specific. They're just there and eat at you. It keeps our minds from being calm and peaceful. Chronic stress or anxiety can cause digestive problems. It can cause sleep problems. It can even hamper our ability to think clearly. So it's critical, this step is critical, that you identify what it is that is causing your fear. What is it that I'm afraid of? Break through that overriding cloud of dread by breaking it down into manageable pieces. Okay, it's a huge thing in front of you, but it's made up of pieces. So think about it. What specifically is scaring you? Is it one thing or is it a lot of things? Usually it's a lot of things that have gathered together like a gang of hoodlums and appear to be unbeatable. Separate them out. One by one, separate them. When you break them down into smaller pieces, they won't be so scary. In fact, they begin to appear beatable and not that significant. And what you may discover is that you've been the victim of false evidence appearing real. Because most of the things we're afraid of never happen. Never happen. Number 3, now that we've broken that big dark cloud of fear down into its smaller parts, maybe there's still something there that has the power to rally you. You know, it's not all clouds and shadows. Maybe there's something real there. But now we've isolated. We've got our hands on it, or our eyes on it, or our mind is wrapped around that there is something scary coming. But we know what it is. We know what it is. So now let's sit down with it for a while. Yeah, just sit there and think about it. Breathe deeply. Relax with it. Get used to it being in your life. Don't try to do anything about it yet. Don't try to figure anything out. Just let it be there. Sit quietly, observe your thoughts, observe your feelings, observe any sensations in your body when you think about it, and write down what comes up. Be as specific as you can, but write it down, see, because we need to get a look at it. We need to have it in front of us on a piece of paper so we can begin to understand what we're dealing with. But the point is here is that by sitting with it, you're giving your subconscious a chance to really examine it, to really get to know what you're afraid of. The longer you're able to sit with it and relax with it, the better able you will be able to see its flaws. You'll be able to see its weaknesses. You'll be able to see cracks. You'll be able to see a way through it. Allowing your mind to sit with it gives your mind a chance to see how it can be defeated. And that's what's important. So sit with it. Relax with it. And as you sit with your fear, begin to remind yourself that you are not all alone. You are not all alone. Infinite intelligence is always with you. Infinite intelligence always has the answer. The trouble is, most of the time, we don't hear what infinite intelligence is telling us because our minds are screaming too loud in fear. But as you sit and you allow your subconscious to be calmer, you begin to be better able to hear the guidance that infinite intelligence is giving you. Because it's always giving you guidance. So sit with it. Know that infinite intelligence is there and listen. What may help is to remember the prayer of healing and protection that I gave you a few weeks ago. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The peace of God now fills me. The power of God now heals me. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is. Step number 5. Remember that fear can work for you if you channel it correctly. Fear is energy. So fear can energize you if there's something you need to accomplish. You know, the definition of courage is to feel the fear and do it anyway. Another way of looking at that is feel the fear and rise higher because it's energy to pump you up. Fear is energy. Use it to your advantage. Remember, I told you last week, athletes use that fear before a big event. That fear, they use it to give them a surge of adrenaline. So fear is energy that you can use to your advantage. Number 6, use the power of your imagination in your favor. Up to now, fear has been using your imagination to bring terrifying images to hold you back. Fear has been using your imagination. Take it back. Use your imagination for yourself, for your own benefit. When you turn that around, use your imagination and begin to fill your mind with images of what your life would be like when you overcome fear. Think about what your life will be like when fear is far behind you and life has embraced you with joy and laughter and love. What will that look like? Huh? Energy follows thought. So turn your thoughts to the positive. Turn to your dreams. Turn to your images of success. And the energy of fear will transform into the fuel that can feed your dreams instead of the wall that can hold them back. Use your imagination. Finally, accept that there are going to be failures and setbacks. Hey, that's life. There will be failures and setbacks, but they are only temporary. They are not permanent. Life is full of ups and downs. That's just part of what life is about. So get used to that and get through it. You know, there's a fable that was told by a Persian Sufi folk poet, a Persian Sufi folk poet named Suft Farid al-Din Attar. He lived from 1142 to 1220. Now the fable tells of a king who demanded of his wise men that they create for him a ring of great power. And what he wanted this ring to do, he said when things are going extremely well and he was happy, he wanted to be able to look at the ring and it would bring him down and make him sad. I guess he didn't want to go too far into euphoria. But on the other hand, when things were going badly and he was sad, he wanted to be able to look at the ring and be happy. It would bring him back up. So the wise men discussed this and they pondered and they meditated on his assignment, and finally they came up with the answer. And they eventually brought him the ring that would answer his demands. And when the king looked at the ring they had created, he realized that they had succeeded. Why? Engraved in the ring were the words, "This too shall pass." So, what may come, but if you remember that you are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence, then you stand a much better chance of overcoming that fear. You are much more than your little human body. You are much more than your little human body. You are a great spiritual being who is much bigger than your body. You are so great. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, but you have simply forgotten who you are. So a quick recap on dealing with fear effectively. 1, acknowledge that you are experiencing fear. 2, identify your fear. What are you afraid of? 3, sit with your fear. Don't hide from it. 4, remind yourself that you are not all alone. Spirit is with you. 5, recognize that fear can work for you. 6, use the power of your imagination. And 7, accept that there will be failures and setbacks, but they are not permanent. You know, we are spiritual warriors, and though we may encounter setbacks, we can always make comebacks because we're never alone. Infinite intelligence is always with us. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence, and infinite intelligence is always with us. Remember that. And let's close with prayer. Thank you, infinite intelligence, for bringing all of us together in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, infinite intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are. We open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being. We are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, we're beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet. As we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more. We know that as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we are now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who have inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger and our lives will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. And for this, we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. Please remember to click on the thumbs up button. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. And remember, I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and suggestions in the comment section below. Thank you very much for spending some time with me. Thank you for watching. I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this has been On the Wings of Your Mind.